If you don't mind me asking, work-life balance. Is this your full-time job making films, or do you have a full-time job and then you do this on the side? How's it working?
I have to wear many hats to make this work. Sometimes it's catering, sometimes it's bartending, sometimes it's freelance editing, or just a random job, putting together someone's voiceover reel or something like that. I'll also then consistently audition for these commercials. In a perfect world, book one a month. It's probably more like I have a really hot month where I book three, and then 2 months go by and there's nothing. That's probably more accurate to like what it's actually like, but we'll say I get about one commercial a month, and
That's good.
then I'm very happy with those odds. That's pretty good. And then essentially all of our free time is put into Girl Soup and making our next project come to life, whether that's traveling to a film festival or, like I just mentioned, our assembly cut for Out in the Light just finished this weekend. So, like, I mean, it had to have been maybe 2 days ago or whatever it was. I did an 8-hour editing session right here in this room with our director. Yeah, it was a long day, but it is fun. I promise you, it may sound tedious, but like when you're in the zone and you're chugging coffee and you have the director right next to you and you're finding moments, it's like time passes in an instant. And just, yeah, it's a mix of all of that to make this very strange actory life work.
Because I've seen some people trot out the line, and I don't know that they actually tried this themselves, but that an artist should throw themselves fully into it, drop everything else, move to LA or New York City, damn the consequences, make a living off the art, don't do anything else to distract yourself. I don't know about you, I like eating and I like having a place to sleep. What would you say to people who would advance that argument?
I did you happen to read The War on Art by Stephen Prescott, if I'm remembering his last name? I might have gotten his last name incorrect because it's been a few years. It's a very quick
Right.
read. You could probably read it in an afternoon, but it's the guy who wrote, I believe it's The Legend of Bagger Vance, if you remember that film that came out. But it's his philosophy on exactly that, where he says in this book, I locked myself in my room and I wrote 10 pages a day. I stopped hanging out with friends because I named myself a writer, and I made this my life. And eventually it paid off. And I read this, and I think the takeaway I got from it is that maybe this book is kind of like the shock value, kind of the extreme to get people who aren't acting that way at all. Maybe they can implement some of this. But I'm with you. I don't think it's practical to just throw your job out of the window to literally only start auditioning if you want to be an actor, and that's the only thing you do, literally. I think that, especially in the few years I've gotten outside of school, having life experiences has taught me more than just reading text in acting school. Like there is a reality to just living your life, becoming a full person who has great friends and is able to work and have a fulfilling job, and then also pursue the arts as well. I think that'll make you a better actor than necessarily going again this route of like, I locked myself in my room and I learned every monologue from Shakespeare. It's like it sounds great in concept. In my personal opinion, it's more important to find the balance between the two. Both are important, but it's important to pay your rent and have a job that supports that. It's also important to make sure you audition consistently. I don't think either extreme is the right path.
Have you met anybody that trick has worked for, of just going all in?
I've met people who have kind of acted like that, and they usually burn out. That's the reality of what I've seen. And again, I'm by no means a famous actor or anything, but I've had some success here.
Right, yeah.
But I foresee that I can keep going essentially as long as it still interests me. But that's because I have budgeted this time to be like, this is work, this is friends, this is acting. It's not just one thing of Jeff is acting. So
Mhm.
I have seen people who kind of just go all in and then they just inevitably end up stopping.
I hear you. And because I have a more literary background, I'll point out that Charles Bukowski worked at the post office while writing his first books. Okay. So, at least one great author did that.
Yeah.
And the people that I personally know, and it's just the people I personally know, who do their art, which is mostly either literally graphic art or writing role-playing games, they're broke or they married into money. So they have the ability to do that because their spouse is taking care of
Sure.
the cash flow, which is fine. And they're very happily married. I'm not saying anybody's got any problems with anybody.
Oh no, no, no. Didn't take it that way. No,
Or they're
yeah.
broke. I don't do this for a main living. I do this for fun. And because I like talking to interesting people. And lo and behold, I asked you, hey, you want to talk? And you're like, sure. And people keep doing that. And I have a great time talking to them about it. And then some of them, we're doing stuff together. We're working on things that I'm interested in. I'm thrilled I get to work with this person. because we did that networking you were talking about with the film festivals. And
I think that
so,
the
yeah,
openness to experiences, like an openness to chat with you, or an openness to be like, I got into that film festival in Portland, Oregon. I'm gonna fly there, invest a little time, and meet people there. That'll serve you more than it's the start of the year. I'm auditioning 7 times a week. I don't care the project. I'm keeping my head down. No, I think living openly serves someone more. You know, that's my personal take.
you said that you grow into being a total person, a fully realized person. There's power in that. And particularly if you're trying to do any sort of performance, if you know what it's like to be there, then that's something you can draw on, like with the method acting you were talking about. But if all you've ever done is by rote recite Shakespeare, are you even going to be as good as you hoped that you were going to be?
Yeah. Yeah.
But life experience, well, heck, Harrison Ford, what was he, a carpenter before he
Yeah.
got hired on for Star Wars
Yeah.
and wasn't a professional actor? He was just right place, right time, right look, and could deliver the lines.
Yeah.
So there's a lot to be said for life experience, I think. Yeah, you
Yeah.
made a good point. And now, your website mentioned ramen noodles. What to you makes the perfect bowl of ramen?
So I love ramen. I have a deep passion for ramen. I can tell you the 3 best ramen spots in New York City right off the top of my head.
Feel free to
Um,
plug them.
I'll throw one out real quick. If you're ever kind of in Harlem area, check out RKOC. It's on like 137th and Broadway. Just a fantastic bowl of noodles and great atmosphere. Kind of is like kind of like walk downstairs. So it's like I won't say a basement, but it's like if you're looking at a storefront, it would be like one layer below on the street. So it kind of has this fun vibe. Cocktails are great there too. If I had to say what makes the best ramen noodles, it's the broth mixed with the clear passion of making a great bowl of noodles. Look, the broth is probably the most important part of your noodles. But I've also had ramen that just kind of is like, there's something about it that just felt so formulaic. But like when they set it down in front of you and you're just like, oh, someone like loved making this bowl of noodles. You can tell. And that's my answer to perfect ramen.
Okay, so if you got a menu, what's going into your bowl on a given day?
First of all, as spicy as possible. Truly.
Okay.
And I've found these spots. If you ask, I'd like your spicy, I'd like your 20x, spicy, 20 times the spice content. They're like, sir, are you sure? And I'm like, please trust that I know what I'm talking about. I just love spicy.
Give me native hot.
Give me the hottest bowl of noodles you can. But I'll usually go for something like a miso broth, and I usually lean towards like a pork meat or something like that. That's kind of what I'm going for in these noodles.
Or you mentioned pork. The last fancy bowl of ramen I had, I was just up in Marlboro, Mass, with a friend of mine for a role-playing game convention, and there was a noodle shop just across the street, and I got the pork belly ramen bowl. That broth, there was quality. It had that kind of umami, full, creamy texture to it. Then all the vegetables that were in it were nice too. But that pork belly was just perfect. It was just enough bite to it and just enough give to the fat that everything went great.
Just perfect. Yes.
But I must confess that I'm largely a basic person when it comes to ramen because I eat the crap out of Maruchan ramen.
Oh, there you go.
And the beef flavor is my favorite, but most of them are good, except for there was this like roasted chicken and lime flavor that was an abomination before the Lord. I'm not.
You do the egg drop too? Do you drop an egg in there?
I don't. No. Should I?
Try that. As you're cooking, as you're boiling the noodles in the water, just drop an egg in there, let it cook right in there with your water there.
So this is Cooking with Jeff Gorcyca. And there's the first tip that you got: how to better prepare your ramen at home. Well, good. I saw that on your site and I thought, what? In search of the best ramen restaurant. Oh, I got to ask about that. And you also mentioned that you play music, and you've already mentioned piano. I've seen you play guitar and sing. What all do you play?
My main instruments are like both acoustic and electric guitar. I have a bass here too as well. And I play piano, although I don't have a piano here in New York City. Maybe love to invest in an electric one at some point, but I do love that as well. I songwrite and sing in my spare time. It's just something that's always clicked with me. I've always found really fun and cathartic, so I've still been doing it, even doing all this acting stuff. But yeah, there was a time in New York City where I was seen at a slew of open mics over a few years. Like I kind of like got into the scene of just finding these open mics and sharing my songs or sharing covers. And I highly recommend not only anyone who wants to play to go to a New York City open mic, but like anyone who's just like, yeah, I'll just like check this out. If you see like that there's one happening later that night, because there's a surprising amount of talent here in just New York that seek out these open mics. So it's not going to be a bunch of chumps. It's not going to be people who can't play. Like, you really will be like, wow, I got this for free tonight. Just these passionate singer-songwriters. I haven't done one in a while. Admittedly, Girl Soup is kind of taking up a lot of my time on the weekends, but there was like a 2-year span where I'd play open mics on Friday nights here in New York. I miss that era, actually.
Maybe it'll come back. And since
Yeah.
we're on the topic of music, who's your favorite band or solo artist?
I am a huge fan of modern punk rock, pop punk in that world. They're maybe not super mainstream, but Motion City Soundtrack is probably my favorite band. I love the subject matter they tackle in their lyrics. It's a little bit nerdy. It's always about self-improvement. And yet it also they hit that kind of pop rock sound that I've always loved in Weezer and Green Day. There is a similarity to them as well. So I'd probably cite them as probably my favorite band. Yeah, no, that is my answer. I'm gonna just leave it at that. I think that is my answer.
Now I got a band to check out. I hadn't heard them before. My wife likes a lot of the more recent punk bands. She likes the old ones too.
Oh,
but
yeah.
things like Arcade Fire and Airborne Toxic Event, things like that, excellent bands. But recently I've been doing more synth rock and synth pop. It was just within the past year. Gary Newman, Cars fame, came to Little Performance Hall here in Pensacola. I'd heard some of his stuff that had been on the radio. I'd seen his videos, but I wasn't expecting anything particularly knock my socks off. But since he's a living piece of music history, I wanted to go see what he did. And that little dude gave the best show I've ever been to. And before then, I had 2 categories for best show. Small venue, Glenn Danzig. That dude can put on a show. Although Glenn Hansard, so the Glens are really good. Glenn Hansard of Swell Season and of his own work, also a phenomenal show. But like big venue, U2 was my favorite. All the spectacle, I love the songs. But this little dude just came out with his black wig and just knocked all their socks off. I did not expect it at all. Holy crap, that dude did it.
Oh, that's awesome.
Favorite concert? Do you have one of those?
You know, I saw Weezer in probably 2008 or something like that. So they kind of had a boom with it. They had some releases that had big singles. Pork and Beans had just come out, I think, if you remember that era. They played killer show. They played like a few of the rarities off Pinkerton, which at the time Rivers like still wasn't really comfortable playing Pinkerton songs. But we got a double encore because the crowd would not let them go. And I've seen Weezer, I want to say maybe 5 or 6 times total. They've never done that since. I've never seen another band do a double encore. But I'm telling you, there was an energy in the crowd. They would not have it any other way. And Weezer did come out and do a double encore. And it just sticks out. There was some energy in the air that brought the musicians back out. They knew they had to come back out.
I love it. And for the folks at home, if you've never been to a concert, because there's a distressing amount of people who've never been or haven't listened to music on anything bigger than your phone, there is a real experience of the music, the sound waves moving through your body. It has an effect, a psychological effect. It moves you into this kind of sacred mental space. It can change your world. I would recommend you get out and do it, and especially for classical music, because like on the radio, it's kind of flat. It's not that exciting. But if you go to a live symphony performance, there is a different presence. So folks, leave the house, go enjoy the arts, because I'm sure Jeff had a spiritual experience at that Weezer concert. And
I did.
at a U2 concert, I out of nowhere decided I forgave my ex-wife. You know, I mean, it's a weird thing, but it happened and it was right and it was emotional. And you can't get that unless you go there, just like you can't achieve success unless you work for it and you put the points on the board, just like Jeff's doing, just like Girl Soup's doing.